So, hello. Great. Okay. So, we finished Daf Ches and give you a mnemonic, but it's Thursday, I want to give it to you. So, you know, base is a bias of onion. St. Kriya, eating his bread and salt and going on his shoulders. St. Kriya's line, Gimel is 3 camels in a ruin, with the line and the dove, Eliyahu Novi, and David Melech, and Daled is a door, spanning from Gula to Tefillah, on top of which stands David Melech in his chassid outfit, and the hay is a haystack, and you have Rabbi Yochanan, St. Kriya's Malamita, but he's suffering terribly from poked by the needles of the haystack, the hay pieces, and Vav is the stick, and from Zera waving a stick as he's running behind the base Knesset to chase away the Mazikin who are digging up Hashem's tefillin because they heard that's where Hashem is to be found. And Zion is a gun, and the picture is of Shalom pointing a gun and David Melech in the Kodesh Kodashim, calling him all sorts of names in his moments of anger, and Moshe Rabbeinu looking at this, saying to Hashem, why do bad things happen to good people, and telling David that he can fight against Avshalom. So that's Zion. Ches. So a new letter, new mnemonic. Ches, the Heg for Ches is Chanukiah. Ches, Chanukiah. Chanukiah has 8 branches. Ches is 8. 8. That's how it goes. It's all Rabbi Goldberg doing, Rabbi Goldberg. But I don't have a better suggestion, so we'll go with him. So Ches. So Ches had many, many themes. It was discursive. I had a very hard time assembling something complex. Not too complex. I didn't want to be too complex, like Vav and Zion, getting out of hand. So I kept it simpler. So in Daf Ches, there you go, my little drawing over here. For what it's worth.
Whoa.
There you go. Look at that drawing there. So Ches is a Chanukiah. Okay, and here, 3 themes. I love to it's a 3. We're limiting it to 3 topics at the moment for this Daf. So there are many things. This Daf was, in terms of separate ideas, we had so many people telling 3 pieces of advice on it. This is a million things we can talk about. I decided to stick to the 3 big topics of the Daf. Number 1, or the biggest topic or most memorable topic. So there was a topic there at length talking about what you should daven for all the time that you find it when you need it. That started out by talking about this matzah motzi. Matzah motzi, that's right. Remember, there's a pasuk, 2 psukim. One says that a person is, if he's matzah isha matzah tov, if he finds a woman who's found goodness, and the pasuk that says motzah mar motzah isha azos, like finds a woman more better than death. And we said that in Eretz Yisrael they had weddings. They would say, is this a matzah wedding, a motzi wedding? I wasn't here to teach them. Thank Mark. That was taught by Sanders. But anyways, so that's my one thing, the matzah motzi, finding a woman. And that, you also should daven, you should find the basic keys when you need it, and kvura when you need it, and everything else. Fine. The second theme that I want to emphasize, also it's like a Shas classic, you shouldn't forget it, is that Hashem is, nowadays, about the basic Mikdash, Hashem is just found in the Arba Alma Shal Halacha. There's a sugya there about how they used to, if you remember, they once they heard this, they would only daven where they learned and so on. So that's such a famous quote and famous chazal, I wanted to emphasize it. So the Hashem is for Almas Halacha. And finally, the theme with all this rules on Amud Aleph. This is at the bottom. The Shnai Mikra Echad Targum, that you should every week at the finish of the Tzibur, twice reading the Sukkim and once reading the Targum. It was explained the length over there. So that's enough. Different ideas. So here's my picture. You have these big menorahs, like huge Chanukiyot, holding up a chuppah that's 4x4. And inside, the guy, or whoever, finds the bride, the wife, doing Shnai Mikra Echad Targum. Okay, it's a funny picture, but the truth is the funnier the picture, then the more memorable it is. So that's already quite a long, it's a mouthful with those 3 ideas. There's too many loose ends. Anyway, so that's the best I could do in a reasonable amount of space and time. So again, big menorahs, I think I'll have better. Big Chanukiyot holding up for chuppah, in which a guy finds his wife doing shema mikra. That's the targum. That's the picture. That's the wife. That's the 4 Hashem there, and that's the shema mikra. That's the targum.
Is that tichel or shegel?
She's not married yet.
Oh, that's the.
He says what?
That's the veil. That's the veil. That's the veil. That was the veil. Okay, so that's the. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
And the menorahs again? The menorahs?
Menorah just because of chet. Chet is the Chanukiah.
Ah.
That's the time. that was definitely the challenge to me. How do I fit Chanukiah into these stories? So that's how we got this picture. You need the hook into the daf.
Eight.
Sorry?
Is it 8?
Yeah, because eight branches in the Chanukiah.
Okay, I was just thinking that.
It's tough because I don't have a better idea for an 8. You know, so that's it. Sometimes you'll see they get a little funny. Like, I don't know. Some are like they're all hay stack is obviously not the same as David Collin. It's like a different kind of connection. Chet, of course, is different than 8 is the Chanukiah.
Doesn't the Chuppah start with chet?
Yeah, well, yes, but don't think that.
CH.
No, see, it does, but the chet, the image of the menorah Chanukiah is going to persist like in Sham's Erevin also. We're married to the chet, so it's never going to be as superficial, I don't know, as like Chanukiah's chet and chet. It's going to be somehow the number is, I don't know, it is that superficial. That's 8 Chanukiah chet and 8 branches, 8 stuff, 8. Okay, you'll see some of them are funny, like.
Why'd you do 3 again? Why'd you say 3? You said you were sticking with 3.
Oh, this is a subtlety, but if you can remember, I only have 3 menorahs here.
Yeah.
Oh, I said 3 themes just on count, that's supposed to be. In my picture, I drew 3 for those for the extra credit, because there was one other theme that I couldn't wiggle in any other way without making it really cumbersome. For much of Daf of Amud Beis, it says so and so said these 3 things to his sons, or taught these 3 things, or I like 3 things about the Persians. There's a lot of those. I think 12 things, 15 things, 12 things that we see like that. I don't know how to get me out of control. So, in my private mnemonic, I have 3 menorahs holding it up, because that's 3, but.
Plus it's an ace that stays up.
An ace, there you go. Look at the effort I put into these little tits of things. Anyway, so that's that. Okay. So that's our mnemonic for the yes. Okay, fine. So I need to erase it. I want to get back on yesterday's story. I erase it to take a picture of this.
We need a book of all these pictures.
I know. And actually, Ruben said he would draw. I want to do pictures. I want to do pictures.
I'm surprised one doesn't exist.
Well, because we're making them up now. But I know this is a crazy. I want to. Ruben, whoever he is, said that he is making the flow chart, like this schematic, how this associates. I have to handwrite them some on my schedule, but I would like to do pictures too, because some people are visual and like this won't remind them. Some people are
I'm
more.
surprised they don't have that for kids already, like for school. It's usually.
I think they'll think it's too silly.
Amazing.
Like this is dumb. That's what you're talking about. It's ridiculous, but it's however ridiculous it is, it's a lot better than the alternative. Because if I told you, okay, everybody, I want you to chazer davches on your way home now from Seder. Yeah, and everyone says yes, okay, but what should I You need a prompt to know where to start. So at least the story, they're like, what was that bride doing again? And you connect, to find the wife, and then finding, there are other findings, and you can expand here. Without the prompts, it's hard to know where to start from. As happens, I'm sure happens to all of us every day. You say, I just went to a great share. Your wife says, what was it about? Wait, what was it about again? You need that little trigger.
I spoke about that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the whole thing. Here, you just you can't remember anything because the balls get rolling. And if someone just say, "Don't you remember what it was about?" and you say, "Oh yeah," and then it all starts flowing. That's how you'll be here too. At least with the picture of davches, this is enough to get the juices flowing, and then you can construct as much as you can construct. We skip lots of things, but at least with these prompts, much of the daf can be connected if you properly know the daf. Okay. So that's my picture, that's our story. Good. So I want to erase this because I want to go back to yesterday. I forgot to take a picture.
You did.
I did. Okay, sorry. No, this is my mind.
You should
I
take
did.
Right. Should make a prompt for remembering to take a picture.
To remind myself to take a picture.
Right.
Okay. So
We missed you.
Is this working here? Okay. So we had said yesterday, this was our timeline, we had 2 points in time. One was Amud HaShachar, which we'll call that dawn. One was Netzachama, sunrise. We had 2 versions. I'll speak a little loosely, not quite precise, but we had 2 versions of a brisa. One said that this whole thing is night. Night goes till Netzachama. That was version 1. And one version said night ends at dawn. Meaning, no, I did this bad. Sorry. I want to reconstruct just for your memory's sake. We use the same color. So I used brown on the top and orange on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Orange and brown.
Yeah, so.
Brown's missing. Isn't that brown right there?
That is to reinforce the memory from yesterday. We use the same colors. So this was version 1. We called this whole thing, this was Lila. And we said it ended at sunrise. And 1, and then of course, this would be day. And the other version, sorry, thank you, says that this version 2, I call it that night ends here, and then this. Day. This is version 2. Two different time periods, and we had said in the first version, the whole point of Reb Shimon, I'll call him Reb Shimon, to also simplify things a little bit for a moment. Reb Shimon's point was, in the first version, you could say kriya shema twice during the night, and B'yotzi the nighttime kriya shema and the daytime kriya shema, and again, an objective. I question, I go daytime with nighttime, I explain, I'll get back to him again. But his idea was, I forgot if we did read it, I'm remembering that anyways. You could say kriya shema once before Amud HaShachar, once after Amud HaShachar, and be guilty 2 kriya shemas, even though it's both in the nighttime, because people are getting up already this time of day. So even though it's still nighttime, but it's uvukumecha, it's getting up time, because people are getting up already, and that'll be okay. In the second version, we said that his point was you could say kriya shema twice during the day, because the day starts at Amud HaShachar. You have biyotzi both your nighttime and daytime kriya shema. We asked why you call this nighttime, and we answered, well, because it's the nighttime, those people are still sleeping in their beds.
I think to be consistent, you want red there. Red there and green on the right.
This way before?
No. I'm saying
Right on the bottom.
the for top one's okay.
No, let's call this.
My reasoning, it may not be yours, but my reasoning is that the green one means that there's no question.
No.
Okay.
Just arbitrarily. Red is b'shach b'cha kriya, and this is the.
I see. Okay, I was going to say because it's already questionable. It has to be red. Okay.
No. I just think you can do no, red isn't good and bad here. So
Okay.
running out of colors. So the b'shach b'cha reading and the vukumecha reading.
Okay.
And we're calling this the yom. We're calling this Lila. So the Gemara's kind of question, is it Yom or is it Lila? That was a side point.
It should be red on the bottom.
Exactly. Today, it's red because the B'Shach and this is the green.
Chef.
The Vukumecha comes after sunrise. Yeah? You with me? That was yesterday's discussion. So 2 versions, the version 1 and version 2. And at the end, we had said, that's what we're up to. Okay? So, look back inside here. This drawing is perfectly clear, even Eliezer, to you also? You
Yes.
Okay, great. Other Eliezer. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so we're looking at Daf Tes. And let's just start on line 2. Amar Rabbi Acha Reb Chanina, for the second time, Amar Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, he is a Tana. We're saying it in the name of Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Acha, Rabbi Chanina is saying that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said that the halacha is like Reb Shimon. If you recall back to yesterday, we had said Ikeda Masni. Some people taught it version 1, and some people taught it as version 2. And actually, the exact, now we're getting a little deeper, a little more precise, I should say. The exact words were, when Rav Acha Rav Chanina said the halacha is like Rav Shimon, some people say he was referring to the first brisa, and some people say he was referring to the second brisa, the second version. Okay. So here we have it again saying that Rav Acha Rav Chanina is saying the halacha is like that saying in the name of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi that the halacha is like Rav Shimon. Meaning, and we're going to version 2. The halacha is like version 2. The last things we had said, I don't want to get all the details of the Tosos from yesterday, but just to very bottom line it, we said the halacha, first of all, you actually can go with both. Either or will work. You can say, we'll see the details more of that in a moment, but that's what we said. And we also said that Tosos seems to take, Tosos on the last Tosos on the Daf Chesed base, seems to take version 1 quite seriously, and seems to suggest that night ends at sunrise, which is very problematic, because Gemara's say not like that elsewhere, and certainly not the halacha. Halacha day ends at Alos HaShachar, or Amar HaShachar. Okay. In any case, fine. Now, again, so line 2 it says, Amar Acha Reb Chanina Amar Reb Shimon Levi, Halach Reb Shimon, Sham Mishum Reb Akiva. If you, again, just be precise here, in version 1 there's no mention of Reb Akiva, just as Rabbi Shimon said. You can look at that back, whatever. And if in version 2, it said Rabbi Shimon said the name of Rabbi Akiva, and that was like version 2. Period. Good. Mm-hmm. So that's done. Now the Gemara continues on this point, though. It says Amar Reb Zera. Rabbi Zera says Ubelvad. It's true the halacha is like that in version 2. Well, I shouldn't say that. The halacha is like that. However, Bilvad provided that Shalo Yomru Hashkivenu. As long as you don't say Hashkivenu. The thinking is that I'll speak generically for a minute before I get to the specifics. Once you start talking about Hashkivenu is, remember, we say kriya shema, which precedes the Shemona Esrei. So the second bracha you say, Eretz Yisrael for sure, is Hashkivenu, like, protect us from the troubles of the nighttime. So the point is, well, if the nighttime's come to an end, there's no point in now saying lay us down to sleep safely when it's time to get up. So that's what Reb Zera says. Reb Zera says, la halacha, this is true and cool, whatever, this is ambiguous for a moment. But he says, by the way, although kriya shema, you can back both sides of this fence, so to speak, but you can't say hashkivenu anymore because the night's over. Okay? Now, Rashi understands that he's going back to version 1, explicitly. Rashi is saying, look at Rashi inside. On the board. It's like the second line of Rashi. It says, Ubelvad shelo yomar hashkivenu. So he says, Hakor kriya shema shalayla shachris. If you, Hakor kriya shema shalayla. If a person does the uvashach b'chalik, the night kriya shema, shachris in the morning time, samach la'amud shachar, close to amud shachar. So that means that he's doing version 1 in the red. Right? He's saying it the nighttime kriya shema, close to amud shachar. So then, lo yomar hashkivenu, he should say hashkivenu, i.e., even though the night isn't quite over yet. She'ein od zman tchilas shchiva. It's not time anymore to go to bed, and therefore there's no point in saying, lay me down to sleep safely. El zman sof shchiva. It's the end of time. It's already the end of the long downtime, and therefore hashkivenu is inappropriate.
I know that you said that we're talking about the rove. Most people do.
Yeah.
But there are people, like you said, that go to sleep in the daytime.
Yeah, so, correct.
So they could say it. They could say hashkivenu then.
No, they don't. No, it isn't normal. No, see, here's something else here. Hashkivenu, I believe, is not even, it's even less so at that point. So Hashkivenu is saying, so to speak implicitly, the night is a dangerous time. That's when the boogeymen are out, and not just the bad guys are out. You go try it off, see. Go one on the street during the day and at night and see what kind of more mischief is prevalent. Nighttime, people get up to mischief and it's dangerous and there are thieves running around and I don't know what. So because of that, under cover of night, since bad things happen, we pray that nothing bad should happen during the nighttime to us. So if the night's over, even if you keep working the graveyard shift, so it doesn't matter because the dangers of the night are over. Both the spiritual dangers of mashkitz and whatever, and the physical dangers of the bad guys. The drunkards are going and passing out by morning time, whatever this thing is. So therefore, it's really not appropriate to say Hashkiveno at that point in the night. But Rashi understands, I would say strangely, that it's going back in the first case. Toso says that's ridiculous. First of all, it's ridiculous because if Reb Zera had something to say, he should have said it on version 1, he should have said it back in version 1. So why wait to version 2? And second of all, it's still nighttime. Rashi's going in a pretzel saying, well, it's no longer the beginning of the going to bedtime, it's the end of the going to bedtime, so it's not appropriate to say about going to bed anymore. Yeah, people are still going to bed. It's strange. It also says, Reb Zera is going in version 2, which follows logically, just in terms of the flow of the Gemara, and it follows logically. His point is, listen, you were saying kriya shema, and it's past, the night is over, so good. Some people are still in their beds, and therefore you're relying that it's still in bedtime. But don't say Hashkivenu because the night's over. That's what Tosa says. Not this. Rashi says since the night's almost over, don't say Hashkivenu. Tosa says, what does that mean? Almost over. It's not over. And anyways, if that's what he meant, he should have said it back then. Why is he saying it now? Tosa rejects that. Tosa understands what Zera is going in version 2, and that's halacha. Halacha is like Tosa. So again, we say halacha. This could happen to you. The halacha is, we'll get back to your question you asked yesterday, which is a good question about the wheel and yeah. But the point is, if it works out, however it works out, which I'll discuss in a few moments, that you're saying kriya shema over here for the nighttime, so you don't say Hashkivenu anymore. That's the din. Because Hashkivenu from the break of dawn is no longer appropriate.
For the break of dawn. Got it.
Okay? And then, now, there's a question lurking, which you asked yesterday, which is, and that's the next look at the Gemara, which let me prep it now. The opening words of this sugya said the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. And we went back to see what he said. Rabbi Gamliel said, Rabbi Eliezer the first third, Chachamim said Chamsos, and Rabbi Gamliel should have until Amar Shachar. So the halacha is like that implies what? That after Amar Shachar, it's too late to say kriya shema for the nighttime, and that's in strict violation of this because we're saying after Amar Shachar, it's too late to say kriya shema.
Right.
So if the halacha is, if the Gemara said the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel, so what in the world am I telling you? The halacha is like both, and you can rely on this.
Yeah.
The Gemara said no, like that.
Right.
That's a good question. The answer is going to be like the cat out the bag, and we'll see it inside. When the Gemara happened, what happened is the boy said, "Listen, we lost track of time. We were out at the wedding, and the next thing you know, we see it's past midnight, but not yet dawn." And he says, "Well, if not yet dawn, I'm going to shachar. You can still read it." This is going to be only, as we'll see in a moment, for a pressing case where a person was an onus. Let's say, for example, the guy passed out and he woke up in this window. So he was an onus or whatever, shas l'chak. It's too late now. Whatever. So can you, in a shas l'chak, in a pressing situation or onus situation, can you rely on this? And the answer is going to be yes. But that was Rabbi Gamliel wasn't saying that. Gamliel was saying, you guys. If you guys were too busy partying to say kriya shema, well, you missed the boat. You can't rely on the shas l'chak. That's what the halacha is like. So that's the issue. So let's just, for argument's sake, to keep it clean, say there's a machlokas. I don't know if it's even true. Let's say, to keep it making it simpler, there's a machlokas between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Shimon. Let's say, I think it's black and white, that could be gray. Rabbi Gamliel Taka says, nowhere past here. Rabbi Shimon says, yes, you could go past here in a shas l'chak. I think Shas such a machlokas agrees that also, when he goes to talk about Shas. So that's not explicit. So that's, clear? So that's the Gemara's now next move.
Yes.
In that direction. We're on line 5. Ki Asr Yitzchak Bar Yosef. When Yitzchak Bar Yosef came, what does it mean? Where is he coming from? What's his coming business? So it means like every time it says in the Gemara that
comes to respond.
No, that's right. I'm coming to say that it doesn't even come to respond. Because that is implicit. The banter, the dialectic of the Gemara is happening, responding all the time. And actually, funnily enough, many times it's this intergenerational conversation where they're not in the same room. But here, he asked means when he came. So that means literally he showed up. What's going on is that this is happening in Bavel, from Bavli, but there was a big Torah center in Eretz Yisrael. So instead of telephones and faxes to send information, they have what's called runners, people who come back and forth, schlepping information on what they said in Eretz Yisrael and back and forth. Human beings carrying information. So Ki asa means when Mr. X came, means when Mr. X came from Eretz Yisrael, telling us, the most recent, halachic innovations in Piskei Halacha, he said, that's what we have here. Ki asa b'Yitzchak bar Yosef, when Yitzchak bar Yosef came. By the way, usually the most common ki asas are always the Talmid Rav Yochanan. In Rav Yochanan's time, he was still like the Gadol Ador, and there was the Rav and Shmuel were in Bavel, so there's a lot of information to the two. After Rav Yochanan's time, this is much later. So already, since Bavel had primacy and it became the main Torah source, it became much less important what they said in Eretz Yisrael. They're like, we're Bavel. Who cares? It's saying, and they brought up information the other way. In any case, here you go. Ki Asher Yitzchak bar Yosef Amar. He said, Had Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina Amar. He said, it's complicated. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef said that this attribution you have that Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina said in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. So actually, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi never explicitly said that. I'm getting ahead of the words here. It's too complicated to follow. The point of what we're saying is that when Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina said, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi had said the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. But now we are learning, we're being taught by Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef that Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina never heard Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi actually say those words. He just inferred, meaning Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina, inferred from something that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi holds like Rabbi Shimon. Let's see it inside. It's like it's hard. So again, Ki Asher Yitzchak bar Rabbi Yosef, when Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef came, Amar, he said, Had Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that which you learned that Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina said that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. Actually, La Beferish Itmar. This statement by Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was never said explicitly. Beferish means explicit. Itmar is like the itpile. It's like ne'emar. It was never said. Passive tense. It was never said explicitly. Ela Miklala Itmar. It was said, meaning that Rabbi Acha Rabbi Chanina never heard Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi say that. He just inferred from something else Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi had said that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi holds like Rabbi Shimon. How do you know that? Dahalu Zugad Rabbanan. Because once upon a time there was this pair of rabbis, the Ishtakur, they became drunk, but Hilula, the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. They went to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's son's wedding, made by Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi the party, and these two Rabbanim, drank too much wine, and they passed out, let's say, or whatever, they became drunk. And then, when they sobered up, Asul Kamed Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they went to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, it's called the Gadol Ador, and they said, and he was the Rav, and they said, well, we didn't say kriya shema, and it's past Amar Shachar. Now what do we do? We passed out, whatever. Amar, so he, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Kadayu Rabbi Shimon lismoch alav b'shas adchak. The only word he actually said was, Rabbi Shimon is the kind of, I'm not sure this exactly. This is a famous line in tomorrow. Rabbi Shimon, I'll translate it in a very literal way. You can rely upon Rabbi Shimon in a pressing need, present time. That's what it literally means. I think it's come to be understood a little more like tongue-in-cheeky, like, don't worry about it, you can rely on Rabbi Shimon. And he goes, Rabbi Shimon was Shimon Bar Yochai, he was a superstar, right? But all Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said was, in a shas adchak, in a present situation, let's say they passed out. You passed out and you woke up and it hasn't been sunrise yet. Well, don't worry about the fact that in the Mishnah, all you have is Rabbi Gamliel saying you have till Amar Shachar. There's a Rabbi Shimon floating out there somewhere, and the Rabbi Shimon says you actually have till Netzach Hama, and you can rely on that Shimon in such a situation. Rabbi Shimon's a big enough person that in a B'diavad situation, a Shas Adchak situation, now an accident happened. You weren't irresponsible and negligent, you just passed out, so now what? So now you could rely on that Reb Shimon and read kriya shema even after Omer Shachar. And that's all that Yeshua Levi had said at the wedding was this, he was also talking about, all his exact words were, don't worry, you can rely on Reb Shimon, end quote. And in the audience there was sitting Rav Acha Reb Hanina, and he heard Yeshua Levi say that, and he says, the Reb Shimon he must be talking about must be the second version, because what else is he talking about? So that the Gemara is just speaking out that no one ever said explicitly. Rabbi Yeshua Levi said the halacha is like Reb Shimon, the name of Rabbi Akiva, and his brisa. It's all taken out of out of context. The only context was just this. His side comments. Don't worry, you can rely on Reb Shimon in this situation. That's all they said.
So because he didn't mention Rabbi Akiva's name, he just said Reb Shimon, we can infer that it must be talking about. That's the idea. Meaning the inference is because he didn't mention Rabbi Akiva. It could be either one, the first one.
That's right.
Or the second.
But it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because.
That's right. Exactly right. So the point is, he never said. Well, and there's no word. Let's focus on that point, just because it makes it's simple. It's a better way. I don't know if that is the point, but it certainly makes it easier to explain. There were two attributions. There was one is halachas of Reb Shimon, one was halachas of Reb Shimon in the name of Rabbi Akiva. And the Gemara says, we never said that. There's no one who ever heard Rabbi Shimon Levi say, the halacha is like Reb Shimon in the name of Rabbi Akiva. That was never said. All he said was, you can rely on Reb Shimon. But he could infer from the fact that the context must have been, like version 2, that it's like Rabbi Akiva. Like Reb Shimon Rabbi Akiva. I don't think Rabbi Akiva is the point, but that brings out the point. Yeah, so that's the Gemara. So you see the interesting takeaway here. Nothing changed really in the last. I guess that's not true. On a superficial level, nothing changed in the Gemara, but you do see that the importance that Chazal put on keeping the attributions exactly right. We're having this complex attribution, and we're actually saying that you should know that we're saying it's in the name of Rabbi Shimon, but actually we never said it explicitly. And therefore, what? I don't know. But if there's something else crops up elsewhere, you might be able to say a third brisa shows up. I would then, say maybe the third brisa for all I know. But something actually very did beneath the surface, or whatever, one step down of complexity. Something very big did happen because going into this, before you saw this brisa, before you saw the sugya, you would think how did our sugya start? The first words were halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. So if I'd say, okay, I just got drunk. Now I'm waking up from my stupor, and it's after Omer Shachar when I eat. Can I say kriya shema? They'll say, well, the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. Gamliel said you have imlo Allah Omer Shachar. If it hasn't been done yet, then chayav to likros. Since it's past, it's too late. You've missed the boat. So there's a whole new world here, which we're saying b'di'evid in your situation of shas and chakar. B'di'evid, where you were an onus. It's interesting. It's all right that this is fascinating. I had once, many years ago, minor fight broke out this year. The only time really happened. One of 2 times only happened. So I got very angry. I don't know why. But anyway, I got very angry when I said that you see from here that it's funny. You see that you drank too much wine and you're considered to be onus. Onus, which means circumstances beyond your control. Because usually, if you would translate shogeg, you already call that being negligent. You should have been more careful. But it was an accident. It was an accident, but next time be more careful. You're just a shogeg. That's normal shogeg,
Couldn't
right?
say that in traffic court, though.
so it's a funny thing, right? No, let me speak that a little different. I think it's an important point. Halachic culpability is divided into categories. You have mazid. You knew full well that you shouldn't be separating your peas from your carrots on Shabbos, and you did. So now you're going to pay the price. Then that's one. Then there's the shogeg, which is, well, no one ever told me I couldn't separate my peas and my carrots. It was an accident. It's shogeg. But really you're negligent because if you cared about Shabbos, you would clarify the law of the Shabbos, something like that, right? Then there's onus, which is, forget misasik, there's onus, which is, I was looking at my clock and my kid took my hand and separated, used my hand to separate the peas from the carrots. So then that's called an onus. I didn't do it. Yes, I did the act, but it wasn't an expression of my will at all. The previous case of shogeg was, I knew full well I was separating peas and carrots, I just didn't know it was us. The third case is, yes, if you look at the videotape without running the sound, you'll see it's my hand separating peas and carrots, but it wasn't me, my will doing it. It was my kid doing it, or someone would go to my head and say, do it or else. So then I was, doing it. That's onus. So, you see from this Gemara here, and everything I told you, that a guy starts drinking. They drank wine because they drank wine. That was their drink. It's like Coke. It was Coca-Cola. You know what I'm saying? So, if I was sitting at the party drinking, because that's what you drink. Why? Because you're thirsty, because you're dancing. The more you sweat you got, the more you drank. And the next thing you know, he had put down, a whole bottle, 2 bottles of red wine, and he passed out. So that's called being an onus. Like the passing out of the onus. The assumption, I guess, is that he figured he could handle it, but he couldn't handle it. So he passed out. When he woke up, he's in a status called the Shas Chak or Bidi Eved. It's not the same as the case in our Mishnah of the boys coming to their dad and saying, we were partying all night, let's say even at a wedding, but we weren't watching the clock, and the chatzos has passed. Now what do we do? So he said, listen, that is called being negligent. So if you missed the rabbi's chatzos, but still the Torah says b'shach b'cha, which goes until the morning time, till Amud Shachar time. So if it hasn't been Amud Shachar, you can still read it. But Rabbi Shimon's saying that's because they were negligent. They were shogeg. Not watch the clock properly. But if you were an onus, you passed out, or you just got drunk, and you can't say kriya when you're drunk anyways. When they sobered up, Amud Shachar passed. Rabbi Shimon says you can still say kriya until late tomorrow, because still people are lying down in their beds. So that's a whole new thing. That's also the halakha. So you have a difference. So if someone asks you a question, hey, can I say kriya shema of the nighttime after Amud Shachar? The answer is, well, no, you can't, unless you're an onus, unless it's Shas Chak, because something else happened out of your control. You know what I'm saying? And that can happen. I don't know. You were negligent, just whatever happened. You were involved in, let's say, mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. You were involved in something else.
You had to take some to the hospital.
Whatever it was, yeah, you were involved. You're just involved. And now, by the time your first chance you get, it's too late for Amud Shachar. You can still rely on this. But if it's just that you thought you'd have time and you miscalculated because you were just otherwise involved, then you wouldn't be able to. That's an interesting difference. It happens a lot. Yeah.
Does it work kind of like if you unintentionally miss a Shemona Esrei, and the next time a minion comes around, like if you missed chakras through no fault of your own, then when mincha comes around, you got to daven 2 Shemona Esreis and all that. Well, like the nadava, does it work like that?
No, it's not like that. It's not like maybe from their analog case. Maybe if you're familiar, is let's say for example you had a very upset stomach and you couldn't. The cutoff time for davening shachas is 4 hours into the morning. But let's say you couldn't because you're in out of the bathroom. Hold on, non-starter. But in the 5th hour, you can now your stomach's okay. So really, it's too late to daven shachas. After 4 hours, it's month filled done. But there is a shita which you can bidi eved. This is bidi eved. Shas Chak. You can do shachas all the way until chatzos, and you would be able to daven. So if I say to you, "It's too lazy to daven and it's not chatzos can daven shachas," the answer is no, you can't. It's past. But if you say, "Well, I can't help it because I was involved until after the 4th hour, can daven shachas," the answer is yes until chatzos. I don't know if that is a new case and therefore it doesn't help you or not. But
so this is similar to that.
Yeah, maybe, I can't remember if it was in this shir or the other shir in the last month or so, I said there are 2 kinds of bidi eved. Is that in this shir? So there's bidi eved in that, like, you're now finding yourself in a situation where it's, it's no longer ideal. As opposed to, you've done it, now can you, in other words, bidi eved means like, I was a little fearful when I go this complicated story. Here, it's bidi eved in as much as, like, you never chose. These guys didn't choose to say kriya shema after Amud Shachar. That's just how it happened because they ended up getting drunk. So they're in a bidi eved, like now it's too late. It's past. What do you want? Amud Shachar is gone. So they can. That's called that's equivalent to a shas chak, a present situation where they can rely on all these bidi eved kulas. Not l'chachila. Everyone agrees l'chachila. That's say kriya shema before chatzos. So now they're in like, what do you want? Something else happens though. Okay.
I hate to throw a monkey wrench into this, but he brought up the issue of davening Marv, for example. So what happens with that? They were asleep. They didn't daven Marv.
They missed Marv. Yeah.
They missed it.
Yeah, but the Marv they'll be able to do a hashlama. They'll daven 2 shachas, Shemona twice in shachas. That halacha considers that. But that's, so to speak, child's play compared to the
Shema.
To the Shema. The Shema is a targ mitzvah, like that you're mevatel mitzvah. That's heavy duty. That's heavy duty. That's in the bria. Like a mitzvah is a mitzvah. It's a whole different
animal.
And both are right and wrong. Both are wrong, but God's did I ask you someone to do so much? I answered just say kriya twice a day. You didn't do it. It's like a major, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So that's what we're worried about, figuring a way to still get it in. Whereas Shemona Esrei, okay, so you missed it. accidents happen, or life is life. Sometimes you had a baby that night you couldn't daven Shemona Esrei. Like things happen. So what? So there's a proviso how to make it up. And if not. In other words, if you miss 2, you only, just so you should know, I don't know, your wife's in labor for the whole morning, and you missed Marav and you missed Shacharis. So when you daven Mincha, you just do 1. You don't do 2. You only can make up as 1 back, not 2 back.
Yeah.
That's a din. Wait, you're helping your wife, and like that's what happens sometimes. So, okay, so you missed tomorrow. It wasn't like a affront to Hashem. It's like I'm missing a Shacharis is more like heavy duty because I'm missing a Shema is more heavy duty because like it's explicit target.
I'm just wondering why they brought in the issue of Hashkivenu here then.
Oh, why bring Hashkivenu?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's a side point, but it's an important din. In other words, Hashkivenu is loosely married to kriya shema because it's called one of the brachos of kriya shema in the evening. I'm saying loosely because it's not a share kriya shema, it's also a tivano al kriya shema, but Chazal are misaken that when you say kriya shema, it should be accompanied with certain brachos, either 3 or like 2 or 4, or whatever, certain brachos, as you know.
Right.
And we'll get to that in this paragraph. And Hashkivenu was like, married to kriya shema. So the Rabbi is just saying, what I was saying before, yes, you can, in this weird case, you can still say kriya shema, but you've lost your Hashkivenu, because Hashkivenu is no longer applicable, because the night's over, or about to be over, according to Rashi. That's why he brought it in.
Right.
It becomes a little more of an issue when you miss Mincha on Shabbos.
I didn't hear about. Say
It
again?
becomes a little more difficult when you miss Mincha on Shabbos, and then you're going tomorrow.
Yeah, yes, it's more difficult, but just so you know, I don't get to this topic, it's a whole world. But just bottom of the halacha, here's the point. The point is, if you missed Mincha on Shabbos, so then when you're davening Marav, like, what happened? Like, how can you make up Marav davening with the Mincha, a Shabbos davening with a Chol davening? That's the question. The answer is, I don't know how it works mechanically, but you can. The din is you can, and you daven 2 Shemona Esreis like Chol Shemona Esreis, even though one's to make up for Shabbos. The first one should be the Hashlama. The first one should be the Mariv, and the second one is the Hashlama. That is not committed. Most of the all not for now. But the point is, the first one is the one you're mechuyev through now, Mariv, let's say, and the second one is making up for Mincha. It's the exact same thing, except you wouldn't say the extra addition you have in Ataf Anatano, you wouldn't add that bracha twice of separating from Shabbos and Chol, because you did it in the first one. Okay, but
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
You mentioned the example of a person who thought that they would be allowed to daven what's into Chatzos, but they didn't know that it was up till the 4th hour. So what would that person be considered if they wanted to daven after the 4th hour? They didn't know. They thought maybe the Zman is until Chatzos. Would that be considered a shogeg?
he's a
Or
shogeg. Well, we call it shogeg, and
and would he be able to say?
if you're b'shgaga, I think a shogeg is allowed to daven. But I think a shogeg, it's not exactly known as. I believe a shogeg is allowed to daven past the 4th hour.
Mhm.
I believe so. So it's not exactly nowadays, if that's true. I should look it up for us. Just the shogeg case doesn't really happen much in real life, right? It's rare. It's
They
rare.
kind of do, because it depends how you brought up. In certain places, like Hasidim, you think it's
Okay,
allowed,
fine, indeed.
or you don't know. You just know.
So let me-
People make midyevets and
Good point.
filas, and growing up, you have no idea.
Let me clarify
You weren't
that.
taught properly.
Let me clarify that.
So all these, I used to wear a pair of tefillin that my great grandfather gave, whatever it was, and I found out that a midyevet should be a diyevet. To me, it was like a pair of tefillin, but it was anything to me.
Right.
And I went to the posek. He said to me, "You're not yodis." I said, "I turned white because for years I was using the second pair of tefillin." He saw my face and said, "No, yodis and diyevet."
Right. So it's a good question. Let me clarify. The question. I'll tell you the question, and I'll clarify. I'll answer tomorrow. The question is, what if you thought it was okay to still daven Shacharis, but indeed you were misinformed? I don't know. You were looking for arguments. I can think of different kind of examples. It could be that you're looking at the Hasidim who are davening late, and you don't want to. We don't go like that. So you thought it was okay, but really wasn't okay. You were guessing someone else. Could be that could be a different story we discussed yesterday. How there's 2 clocks. There's the Magen Avraham, what they call the Magen Avraham clock, and there's the the Gra Baltanya clock. Depending if you're measuring the Gra Baltanya wants day and night, the 12 hours to go from sunrise to sunset, and the Magen Avraham wants it from Elos Shafat to Tzeis Chavim, and then if you didn't notice, the Gra's times later than the Magen Avraham time for saying kriya shema. So for argument's sake, let's say if you're machmir in Eretz Yisrael, they're pretty machmir for the Magen Avraham. I should let you know, I think many, I don't know where they are. Many people, more people are, Eretz Yisrael are more people are machmir for Magen Avraham than saying earlier kriya shema. Like in Beis Tefillah, they say that the Luach, it says, when it says kriya shema time, it says Magen Avraham, it doesn't say Gra. And so on. So that could be also. So that's my grandfather. I'm checking these. Okay. Hello. Hi. You okay? Oh, I'm glad. Very nice. Oh, I'm very glad. I'm very happy. Would it be okay if we speak in a few minutes? I'm just in the middle of teaching a class, so I stopped to speak to you. But can we speak in 10 minutes? Is that okay? You should phone me, please. It doesn't matter. Phone me when it's convenient. But I'm just finishing up the class. Okay, thanks.
Still recording?
I forgot to do it. I'm sorry. I didn't. And good that I didn't. Okay. So I'll be clarify. Oh, my point was if you're not like the Magen Avraham, then maybe you'd say, and you were looking at a luach that was Gra times. You might have thought you still had time when you learned post fact that you did a little different of a video of it. But anyways, I will clarify. Yes. So there's the last thing, if you want to just as we move on here, to a little bit more. This Kedai Reb Shimon L'Smoch Alav B'Shas Chak is like it's made its way into like popular from culture, like a phrase. You'll hear people like say Kedai blah 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 to be so. People oftentimes people say it to make if you're trying to be very from and the Mishmur says it's mutter, then they'll say Kedai the Mishmur to be so. Anyways, it's okay. Moving on. Maisa Shabo Banav So I'm on line 12 here. So if you remember the Mishnah had said back in the base this story, which we sort of referenced moments ago, but I'll read it inside here. Maisa, once it happened, Uba'al Ban of the base of Mishteh, his sons, Rabbi Gamliel's sons, came from the base of Mishteh. That's the it's called
wedding hall.
Let's go to the wedding now. It came from the wedding, and Amrulo, they, the boys, said to him, Rabbi Gamliel, look, Karinu es Shema. We haven't yet said Kriya Shema. So what do we do? Amrlam, so he said, Im lo alam shachar, it hasn't yet become dawn. Chayav and likros, you still have to read Kriya Shema. So that's referencing here. So the Gemara says on line 12. The Gemara asks, Vad hashta lo shmilahu had Rabbi Gamliel? The Gemara says, wait a second. Rabbi Gamliel, I'm sure his boys went to yeshiva and I'm sure they knew Rabbi Gamliel's shitas, lived in his house. So what does that mean? They didn't Kriya Shema, the kind of thing that doesn't come up every day. So how is it possible these boys, they must have at least teenagers, they're going out drinking at night by themselves, right? So in my words, surely they must have known Rabbi Gamliel's shita already. It's what's this discussion that makes no sense? How did it actually play itself out? What does it mean? They knew his shita was, they knew Rabbi Gamliel held, you could say it until dawn. So what are they asking for? Inside the words again mean, Vad hashta, and up until this point, lo shmilahu, had they not heard him, meaning had they not heard had Rabbi Gamliel, this Rabbi Gamliel shita? So the Gemara says, implicitly, yeah, of course they had heard that he holds, but they weren't sure if that applies to them. Because achi ka'amrele, this is what the boys said to him. Rabbanan pligi aluach, I don't know that word. It says, listen, we all know that the rabbis disagree with you. The rabbis say chatzos, and you say till dawn. Now, v'yachin v'rabim halacha karabim. Even though you're our dad, that's fine, but the halacha goes like the majority, and even you can rely on your own whatever and do what you want to do and say till dawn, but we are bound by the psak of the rabbis, and we have to stay by midnight. So, in other words, is it true that you really argue with the rabbis, and therefore you can do what you want, Dad, but too late for us, because the rabbi's halakha governs what we do. O Dilma, or no, Rabban Kavasech Svirlu, do the rabbis really agree with you that the cutoff time is dawn, Amud Shachar, V'hai Amr Chatzos, and the only reason the rabbi said until midnight was just like a protective fence, Kadei Laharchik Adam Min Ha'avera? Question mark. Yeah, so they know they're bound by the halacha, but by the Rabban. But the question is
More than their own father.
yeah, it's a din. The din is a din. You can't. The father can do what he wants. That's not their problem. But if they know the psak is the psak, then they. The question on the dad, how is he able to go in like?
Yes.
So the din is, by the way, that is. I don't get this topic now. But you're thinking like Zak and Mamre. So the issue of Zak and Mamre is teaching others. A person's allowed to do what he wants. Like Torah, I always say, I'm joking. I'm not joking. The Torah actually is very libertarian. Like the Torah's attitude, if I can speak very generally on behalf of the Torah, is like, listen, you want to do what you want to do, like go right ahead. Like you know, and you'll pay the consequence, you pay the price. But like, you know, I told you what I think, says God. You want to do differently? Listen, sooner or later you'll hit against reality. But so the question is, does it focus on what the base in b'shach b'cham means? Is it in you're going to bed, or is it when you're in bed? Good, you understand it means when you're in bed. But if the rabbis have gone the other possible like that, so we're bound to them, not to you. That's the question. So again, that's important that you get it, because the machlokas is what the meaning of the word b'shach b'cham meant. Because you can say all you want. I joked about this a moment ago in the previous Mishnah here. You can call, like, you can be told that none of you are here, so I guess I'm going to say it again more or less. That summarize it very briefly. The Lincoln Douglas debates back then, 19th century. So Lincoln said to Douglas, "How many legs does a horse have?" So Douglas said 4. So Lincoln said, "If you count the tail as a leg, how many legs does a horse have?" So Douglas said, "Well, then it has 5." So Lincoln said, "No, it's still just got 4 legs. You're just making a mistake." So that's what's going on here. If b'shach l'cha means when you go to bed at night, so you can think like the boys, so to speak, are saying, good, you can say all you want that it means, you know, until the morning time and the whole time you're in bed, and you can rely on that and you can do what you want, Dad. But if the rabbis are saying it means b'shach l'cha just when you're going to bed, so then once after midnight, then it's all over. Saying Kriya Shema doesn't help. Because the Kriya Shema window is closed at midnight. That was their question, to which he answers them, no. Amar Lahu, he says to them, Rabban Kavasis Sfir Lahu. No, the rabbis do agree with me. The rabbis agree that when the Torah said B'shach B'cha, it meant the whole night long, when people are in beds. V'chayav metem likra, v'chayav metem, you have to read. V'hai de ka'amri ad chatzos, the only reason they said chatzos is another D'Rabbanan layer, to protect people from missing the window. Therefore, they said do it the first half, lest it's too late, as we explained in previous times. So that's the Gemara's discussion of what. This piece is simple. It's just simply saying the story doesn't make sense. The boys must have known what their fathers held, and the answer is they did know what their father held. But if the rabbis held different than the father, then we balance the rabbis to the majority, not to the father. That's an important point. That's an important point, obviously. But anyways, there's no machlokas. Says they actually agree with me. So we'll stop up there.
Shkach.
Like